My name is Paul Wolver. The name of my company is Pinellas Power Products. I have a couple of accessories that I've developed for the Yamaha EF3000 series generator. The first accessory is the extended runtime fuel system. The extended runtime fuel system is compatible with the EF3000iS, the EF3000iSE, and the EF3000iSEB. My fuel kit comes with everything that is hooked to the generator and a genuine Yamaha fuel hose from the Marine Division with the prime bulb and a Yamaha quick disconnect on each end. Incidentally, it is a 10-foot hose. The kit also comes with an additional Yamaha style fuel fitting that would go on the remote fuel tank. I do not include the tank itself in my kits because no two people seem to want the exact same size of the tank. If you want the tanks, I do sell those separately. If you look on my website, you'll see where the fuel tanks are available as a 6 or a 12 gallon. Or if you wanted to purchase the fuel tank itself, even Walmart carries the fuel tanks. Operation is very simple. Number one, you don't get this nasty fuel hose, you get the genuine Yamaha fuel hose. But look at the prime bulb and notice the arrow, and the arrow should point in the direction of fuel flow, which means from the remote tank to the generator. So the first step is going to be to connect one end of the hose to the fuel tank, connect the other end of the hose to the quick disconnect fitting on the generator. Open the vent on the remote tank, and then if it's the first time you're using it, or the first time after it's been sitting for a long period of time, move the fuel selector valve to the on position. And then you're going to pump the prime bulb until it becomes firm. And the purpose of this is simply that this hose is probably full of air. It's definitely full of air the first time you use it, but after it's been sitting for a while, there's probably an air bubble in it. So go ahead and pump the prime bulb 3 or 4 times, or whatever it takes, until it becomes firm. Once the prime bulb becomes firm, you can then move the fuel selector valve to the off position. Like I said earlier though, with it in the on position, what you're doing is pumping fuel out of the remote tank, through the hose, in through the inlet fitting, through the fuel filter, through the fuel pump, and all the way on into the carburetor. And because the fuel selector valve is in the on position, it also opens up the fuel selector valve and allows the air bubble to be pushed into the stock tank, where it is vented through the stock fuel tank vent. However, for normal running, if you're running it off of the remote tank, you'll put the selector valve in the off position. If you want to run it off the stock tank, you put it in the on position. It's pretty straightforward and simple. If you have any questions, there is the fuel decal stuck to the outside of the generator. But for now, and then starting procedure, on this particular generator, it has my wireless remote control on it, so the choke function is automatic, or if you want, you can choke it manually. So if you don't have my wireless remote control, you pull out on the choke knob. Go ahead and start the generator. I'm not going to leave it running for a long period of time because of the fact that we are indoors in a closed environment. On this generator, because it does have my wireless remote control, you can also start it without the choke because it has a temperature sensor mounted on the engine and a linear actuator mounted to the choke, so it'll choke automatically. And again, I didn't want to leave it running very long because we are in an enclosed building. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. Okay, before I go on to the wireless remote control, I'd like to mention, do not set the generator this high above the fuel tank. I strongly recommend that the fuel tank and the generator be operated with both the fuel tank and the generator sitting on level ground. And of course, keep the fuel line routed away from any open flame or source of heat. But at any rate, don't go putting the generator up on a cart like this. The Maximum dry lift on the fuel pump that is included in the kits is 16 inches, and we've got it up to 48 inches here. It will work, but I would not intend to run it that way very long. On to the wireless remote control. My wireless remote control is the most advanced, most feature-packed wireless remote control that I know of. Mine is the only one that will start a generator, stop a generator, toggle in and out of economy mode, and turn one of the outlets on and off, all by remote control. Incidentally, with the two handheld transmitters that are included in the kit, mine has a range of 400 feet. If for some reason you needed more than 400 feet of range, I do have an additional transmitter that I sell. It's listed on my website. This one is $49. It has a range of 2,000 feet, and I'll be demonstrating that later on in this video. But the standard kit comes with two of these handheld transmitters. They have an extendable antenna. Extending the antenna up gives the 400 foot of range. Right now I'm standing right next to the generator, so I don't need the antenna extended. The operation on it is straightforward and simple. For storage purposes, you'd leave the key in the off position, but whenever you want the wireless remote control to work or to run the generator under any circumstances, you turn the key to the on position. The standby draw of the radio systems that I use is about 12 milliamps in the default condition. So with the battery in this Yamaha generator, you can leave the key on for several days without killing the battery. At any rate, starting the generator is straightforward and simple. You push button number 1 and 1 only. The generator has a temperature sensor mounted in the engine and a linear actuator that handles the choking functions. You press button number 1 to start. Put it into economy mode, press button number 3. Put it back into standard run mode, press button number 3 again. To shut the generator off, press button number 2. I don't want to leave the generator running for a particularly long period of time because we are indoors. Now, if you have a device that you wish were remote controlled, but it isn't, you plug it into the bottom outlet, because my wireless remote control also controls the bottom outlet independently. So if you have anything that you need running all the time the generator is running, you can plug that into any of the outlets. The 30 amp outlet and the upper 20 amp outlet are on all the time that the generator is running. But this one we can control independently. So I'll go ahead and start the generator again by button number 1. We'll go ahead and put it into economy mode, which is button number 3. And in the outlet, which is button number 4, it turns off. Go back on again. Go off. Button number 3, put it back into standard run mode. Or button number 2 to kill the generator. As I stated earlier, mine is the only wireless remote control that I know of that has all these features on it. Yamaha in their owner's manual states that you should start the generator in standard run mode, and once it is warmed up, you then move it to economy mode. So all the other wireless remote controls out there, you'd put it into standard run mode, you'd start the generator by remote control, and then you'd have to leave it in standard mode. Either that or you'd walk over to the generator and flip it into economy mode, at which point why bother buying a wireless remote control that won't actually do the job correctly if you have to walk over there anyhow. Like I say, these have a 400 foot range. I'd like to do a quick head-to-head comparison between my long-range wireless remote control system for the Yamaha EF3000iSEB and Yamaha's factory remote control system. Yamaha has their own wireless remote control for this generator. They have it listed on their website at $458, suggested retail price. Their kit consists of the circuit board with the wiring harness. You'd unplug the ignition switch and intercept the stock harness with this, where mine just comes with a new ignition switch. Then you would completely remove the stock choke cable and put this choke cable in place of the stock one, so you would no longer have a manual choke. The range of theirs, according to their website and their paperwork, is 66 feet. The range of my wireless remote control is 400 feet with the transmitters that come with the kit. If for some reason you need a longer range, on my website I also have listed an additional transmitter with a range of 2,000 feet. I would like to go ahead and do a straight up comparison for the procedure in operating them, and I'm going to read the Yamaha procedure straight out of their installation guide that comes with the kit. I'm going to be reading it word for word because it's pretty arduous. I can't believe they hadn't handled it this way. At any rate, starting the generator using the key fob, and this would be the Yamaha key fob. It says make sure the generator petcock knob is in the on position, and that would be right here, to allow gasoline to flow to the generator. Make sure the key switch is in the on position. The start sequence is initiated with two successive primed presses of the start button. Press the start button and hold it down for a second. Release it for a second and press it a second time to initiate the start sequence. The sequence of presses is timed, so presses and releases that are too long or too short will not initiate the start sequence. So, just to review, you've got a start button, you have to press it for a second, release it for a second, and then press it for a second, and then it'll start to crank, which is kind of like a combination lock. You go 13 to the left, 22 to the right, 44 back to the left again. And if you didn't get it right, you have to start all over again. Press it, release, press, release, press, release. And it only gets better. Starting sequence using the key fob method. After pressing the button for 1 second, releasing it for 1 second, then pressing it for 1 second again, the generator will enter a hot start mode and will crank for 5 seconds with no choke applied. This is because they use a time basis, where mine uses a temperature sensor mounted in the head. The mode is intended to start the generator that is still within the operating temperature or recently been turned off. If the generator does not start during this time, the generator will automatically switch to a cold start mode after a 5-second pause. During the cold start period, the servo motor will apply full choke to the generator and will crank for up to 10 seconds. This sequence will repeat for a period of 1 minute. Once started, if you did all that right, the choke will automatically be moved to the open position. Okay. So Yamaha, you press it, release it, press it again, and if it's cold, I'm still holding it, and it's going to crank for 5 seconds, and then if it doesn't start, it's going to then go into cold start mode, at which point it'll close the choke and continue to crank for up to 15 seconds. That's Yamaha's method. My method, make sure the fuel selector valve is in the on position, make sure the key is in the on position, open the pocket slider, and push button number 1. My system figures it out on its own. Both systems shut the generator off by simply pressing button number 2. I talked to somebody at Yamaha about their combination lock idea. The press it, release it, and so on. And they said that that was so that you didn't accidentally pocket dial it while it was in your pocket. Mine, I simply have a sliding cover. Slide the cover over it, you're not going to hit a button accidentally. No combination lock to deal with. Okay, so that is the procedure using the key fob. Now there is the manual crank method, or using the ignition key. Yamaha's procedure is make sure there is gasoline in the fuel tank. Yes, we know. Turn the fuel selector knob to the on position to allow gasoline from the generator to flow into the carburetor. Then using the key switch, turn the key to the start position and hold for a few seconds. At this point, the generator will enter a hot start mode. If the generator does not start fairly quickly, release the key switch, hold it for a few seconds, and then try again. On the second attempt, it will initiate a cold start mode and apply full choke automatically. Release the key once the generator has started, and we know. There is a second method. It's called the continuous crank method. Make sure there's gasoline in the fuel tank. Make sure the fuel selector valve is in the on position. Turn the key to the start position and hold it, at which point the generator will crank for 5 seconds with no choke, and then if you continue to hold it in the crank position, it will enter a cold start mode, close the choke, and crank for an additional 6 to 15 seconds. Release the key once the generator has started. So with Yamaha system, you would turn it on, then you would turn it to the crank position, then you would release it from the crank position, and then you would turn it back to the crank position to initiate hot start, or you would turn it all the way to the start position, let it crank for 5 seconds with no choke, and then continue cranking with a choke. Somewhere in here, I can see a battery dying. My system, make sure the fuel selector valve is on, turn the key. Then, if for some reason your battery is completely dead, it hasn't been maintained for a while or something like that, let's say it's been sitting in your garage for a long period of time. With my system, if you need to manually start it, by that I mean recoil, put fuel in the tank, turn the selector valve to the on position, turn the key to the on position, pull out on the choke, and pull the recoil start. Once it's started, put it on the choke. Yamaha's procedure for recoil starting it is, that's right, they don't have a procedure for recoil starting it because they have removed the manual choke. And then we get to the very best part. If you are attempting to start it through the key fob, the key must be in the on position. We know this. This is correct with both the systems. With the Yamaha system, if you have the key in the off position, you take your key fob and you press the start, then you release the start, then you press the start, and then you hold it for 5 seconds while it goes through the hot start mode into the cold start mode, and it doesn't start. Then you go, geez, it's not running, I wonder if I hit the sequence wrong. So you try it again. You press the button, you release the button, you press the button, you hold the button in for 5 seconds while it continues to crank, and it's still not going to start. Mine, if you've got the key in the off position, it doesn't crank over. It's not going to kill the battery on you. Yamaha system, it can continue to crank, and let's face it, with the combination lock where you press, release, and then you have to wait for it to crank for 5 seconds in a cold start, and then up to, between 6 and 15 seconds in hot start mode, you're going to wear the battery down. So then you walk out there to check. In my system, you turn the key to the on position, you go, oh yeah, darn, I forgot to turn the key on. Then you press it and it works. Yamaha, you walk out there, you see the key is in the off position, you turn it to the on, you turn it to start, and the battery goes, and it's dead. Now you have no choice but to recoil start it. And remember, theirs doesn't have a choke. The next thing, come on, you start it. You want to put it into economy mode? Press button number 3. The Yamaha, it doesn't have an economy mode. You want to turn the outlet off, button number 4. Go back on, button number 4. The Yamaha, it doesn't do that either. So you look at all these features and you think to yourself, geez, for $458, I would think that Yamaha could have done a better job with all their resources. And I really shouldn't pick on Yamaha, because the bottom line is that Yamaha, with their EF3000iSEB, they make the best portable 3,000 watt generator on the market. No question about it, in my opinion. And until I came out with my long-range wireless remote control, they had the best wireless remote control for their generator. Now they have the second best wireless remote control. When you think about it though, they're the runner-up, and being runner-up is a whole lot better than being third or fourth best. Okay, let's go ahead and go outside and demonstrate the range of this remote control system. Button number 1 starts it. Button number 3 for economy mode. Button number 4 for the outlet. 4 to turn the outlet back on again. 3 for economy mode or standard mode. And then 2 to shut it off. Okay, what I'd like to do now is have my son head down the road and demonstrate the range of this generator. Go ahead and go to the 100-foot mark. Okay. Okay, go ahead and start the generator. Put it into economy mode. Shut the light off. Turn the light back on. Put it into standard mode. Shut the generator down. In order to shut the generator off, you must hold the key or hold the number 2 button in the down position until the generator fully stops. Okay, go to 200 feet. Okay. Go ahead and start the generator. Put it into economy mode. Shut the light off. Turn the light back on. Put it into standard run mode. Now go ahead and shut it off. Okay. Go ahead and go all the way to the 400-foot mark. Okay. Now you're still using the small remote, correct? Okay, good. Go ahead and start the generator. Go ahead and put it in economy mode. Go ahead and shut the light off. Turn the light back on. Put it back into standard run mode. Okay, when you go to shut it off, from that distance you won't be able to hear it anymore. So just watch the light. I think you'll be able to see the light and hold the kill button down until after the light shuts off. Go ahead and shut it off. Okay. Go ahead and go all the way to 1,000 feet and use the long-range transmitter, because this is 400 feet here, and I think this pretty much proves the point. Okay. Okay. Now go ahead and start the generator. Put it into economy mode. Shut the light off. Turn the light back on. Put it back into standard run mode. And then shut the generator off. You got to hold that button on until it comes to a complete stop. Okay. Go ahead and go to 2,000 feet. Okay. Okay. You're actually all the way around the corner now, so you won't be able to even see the light, but you should be able to hear the generator running over the cell phone here, so you'll know when it has shut off. But go ahead and start the generator. Put it into economy mode. Shut the light off. Turn the light back on. Put it back into standard run mode. And then listening to the generator through the cell phone, go ahead and shut it off, and you'll hear when it's totally off. Okay, go ahead and come on back. He's actually all the way around the corner and down the street, so we have to have him listening over the cell phone to know when the generator is on or off. And there he comes back. You can see this headlights now. And that should pretty much do it.